سلام دوستان، به کانال من خیلی خوش اومدین. اسم من مریمه و من مدرس زبان فارسی هستم. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mariam and I'm a Persian language instructor. So first I wanted to apologize for my very long absence. It's been very hard to find time to make more lessons. But I did change a few things in my schedule, so hopefully that would give me more time to dedicate to my lessons and to post more often. Hopefully, inshallah, we'll see. So we have a new lesson today. It's part 1 of the subjunctive series. We are going to learn in this lesson how to form subjunctive, and also I will give you a little bit explanation about its triggers. So here we are. There are 7 parts to the subjunctive series, and I decided to divide it into different lessons because, there are multiple reasons for that. The first reason is that subjunctive is so important and so functional in Farsi grammar. Yes, all grammar points are important, but subjunctive is very commonly used in everyday language. So that's why it's so important to learn it. The second reason is that some languages, subjunctive is not as extensively used as it is used in Farsi. For example, English has some subjunctive, but it's not as extensive as in Farsi. Spanish, the subjunctive in Spanish is very, very similar to the subjunctive in Farsi. So if you know Spanish, it's I would say 90% the rules. The rules are like 90% the same. French has some subjunctive. So if your language subjunctive is not as extensively used as in Farsi, that's when you will need some help, because it would be hard for you to understand the concept behind that. And then the third reason is that when I look at Farsi teaching materials, when I go over to the subjunctive chapter and I see the explanation, unfortunately, is very little. They haven't provided detailed explanation, and it doesn't work like that. By just 2-3 paragraphs, you won't be able to understand the concept. That's why I decided to do something differently and to come with like a very comprehensive series on the subjunctive. And what else? Oh, it's very, very important that if you do not know the rules behind subjunctive, if you're not too familiar with them, it's very important that you watch these lessons in order. So for example, if you watch part 2 and then you skip 2-3 lessons in between and you suddenly watch part 5, you're gonna be lost. You're gonna be confused and you're gonna be like, what's going on? But I promise you, if you watch each part carefully, you finish it, and then you watch the next one, then most of your questions and confusions or whatever that is, it will be gone. I can promise you that. All right, so let's start the lesson. So let me explain to you what we are going to learn in this lesson. First, we are going to go over the 3 moods in Farsi, and then I'm going to explain to you the different types of subjunctive, but I'm not going to go into details, just to tell you how many subjunctives we have in Farsi. And then we are going to learn about the indicative mood versus subjunctive mood. And then we are going to go over how to use the subjunctive. And then the formula, the annoying irregulars, they follow us everywhere. And then I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of verbs, words, and phrases that trigger the subjunctive. 3 different moods in Farsi. I have already talked about this a little bit in the lesson about the imperative mood. I'm going to review it again. The first mood is the indicative mood, وجه إخباری. This mood is used to express facts. It is based on objective facts or statements that are believed to be true. When a verb is in indicative mood, it means it need to have a tense, past tense, future tense, present tense, whatever tense that is. So in the beginner level, we learned these tenses here. In the intermediate level, we will learn the other tenses. So that's called وجه اخباری. And then we have the subjunctive mood, وجه التزامی. This one, unlike the indicative mood, this one is based on subjective facts. And it is used to express desire, doubt, unknowns, emotions, possibility. For example here, I like to travel. من دوست دارم سفر بکنم. We are not saying I'm traveling, I will travel, I have traveled, I traveled. We're not saying those. We're saying I like to travel. It is expressing a desire. So it's subjective. That's why in this situation in Farsi we use subjunctive. And then we have the imperative mood, which we have already learned this, which is used to make direct commands. So in Farsi, we have three types of subjunctive. We have the present subjunctive. That's what we are going to learn in the next few lessons. And then we have the past subjunctive, and then we have the past perfect subjunctive. So don't worry about these two subjunctives. We will learn them in the late intermediate level. So for now, just focus on learning this one. If you learn how really subjunctive functions, then you can learn these two also very easily. So in order to understand subjunctive better, we need to do a comparison with indicative mood. That will help you to better differentiate between these two moods. And also don't worry about like the sentences in Farsi and for example, how this one was formed. Don't worry about that. We will learn that very shortly. For now, just focus on understanding the difference between indicative mood and subjunctive mood. So we said earlier that indicative is used to talk about facts. It is based on objective facts. For example, Leila knows Arabic. Leila عربی میداند. So this statement is objective. And then we have other sentences. I'm sure, I think, I've heard, for sure. These are also objective. Now, if you look at the tense in English, knows, is the same in Farsi. میداند, 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 which this tense in Farsi is present tense. So we said when a verb has a tense, so it's in indicative mood. And now let's go over to subjunctive mood. So we said also that subjunctive is used to talk about desires, doubts, wishes, possibilities. It is more based on subjective facts rather than objective. For example, now Leila knows Arabic has changed to Leila may know Arabic. So we added a may into the sentence. So it's like possibilities. This is not certain anymore, this sentence here. شاید لیلا عربی بداند. So now because we added شاید to it, then میداند, which was indicative, in Farsi needs to change to بداند. We cannot use میداند here anymore because again, it's here, it's talking about possibilities. And the same with the rest. So I doubt, I don't think, I hope, it's possible. You see, all these sentences here are subjective. So that's why all the verbs have changed from indicative mood here now to subjunctive mood. بداند, 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 and بداند. So the challenge is that if you look at the verbs in the English side, knows, on the right side is also all knows beside this one. Just knows has changed to know in this example, but the rest are all the same verbs. But in Farsi, as you can see, they have all of them have changed. So this is a challenge, especially for like a English speaking person, because again, subjunctive, the way it is used in Farsi, it's not used in English too. So That's why you need to know the rules behind it. I recommend you in your language just do a trial error and see if it changes. Like do the sentences in your language and see if by, for example, changing this sentence to this sentence, if the tense the mood of the secondary verb changes, then it means that maybe you have subjunctive in your language too. If you have it, then it will really help you to understand subjunctive in Farsi too. Let's go over the clauses too. So as you can see again, indicative mood, this is one of the sentences from the previous slide. So here we are saying, I am sure Layla knows Arabic. This is the main clause and this is the dependent clause. And we said this one is in present tense. It's the same in Farsi. We have the main clause, man mutma'in hastam, and then the dependent clause, Layla Arabi midanad. Present tense, present tense. And now on the subjunctive side, I doubt Layla knows Arabic. So here main clause, and then this one is the dependent clause. And this one in English, it's still present tense, but in Farsi, man shak daram, it means I doubt. This is the main clause, but the second, the verb bedanad, which means knows, in the second clause has changed to subjunctive. Layla Arabi bedanad. So it will help you when you know the different clauses. It would help you better to distinguish which verb needs to be in subjunctive. But again, don't worry about all the stuff. We will learn them in details and you will see a lot of examples. So it will become like just very easy and second nature for you. How to use the subjunctive mood? Well, first we need to learn how to form it, meaning like the formula, and then we need to learn the irregulars. After that, then we need to learn about the elements that trigger the subjunctive. But this is very extensively covered in the other parts. In this lesson, I'm just going to give you a very brief explanation about it. So we are going to start by learning about the formula first. How to form a subjunctive mood? It's actually very easy. So we need be plus the present stem, and depending on what our subject is, we need the verb ending. That's going to give us subjunctive. For example here, دیدن. Bin is the present stem. So be plus bin. Let's say the subject is man. This is the verb ending. So plus mim. ببینم. Another verb here. This one is a compound verb. انجام دادن. So we attach be to the present stem. Let's say the subject is شما. This is the verb ending. ید. So انجام بدهید. بدهید. Now let's take a look at the negative form as well, which it's also very easy. We just replace be with na. So here be, we replace it with na. So bebinam will change to nabinam. Or the other one, we replace be with na. So anjam bedahid will change to anjam nadahid. Now let's conjugate these two verbs, دیدن and انجام دادن, to all the 6 subject pronouns, so you can get a little bit more practice if you need help with like the conjugation. So the first one, ببینم, ببینی, ببیند, ببینیم, ببینید, ببینند. The negative, نبینم, نبینی, نبیند, نبینیم, نبینید, نبینند. And now the spoken form, ببیند is ببینه. And the negative is the same. So نبیند, نبینه. ببینید, the spoken form, ببینین. And نبینید, نبینین. ببینند ببینن. And the same for the negative. نبینند نبینن. Now let's do the compound verb. انجام دادن. انجام بدهم. انجام بدهی. انجام بدهد. انجام بدهیم. انجام بدهید. انجام بدهند. And the negative. انجام ندهم. انجام ندهی. انجام ندهد. انجام ندهیم. انجام ندهید. انجام ندهند. There's a drastic change in the spoken form for this verb. So انجام بدهم in the spoken language is انجام بدم. انجام بدهی انجام بدی. Or انجام ندی for the negative. Sorry, there was no space for me to put the negative, but it's just the same, only be changes to na. انجام بدهد انجام بده. Or انجام نده. انجام بدهیم انجام بدیم. Or انجام ندیم. انجام بدهید انجام بدین. Or انجام ندین. انجام بدهند انجام بدن. Or the negative انجام ندن. Let's practice a little bit more with other verbs. So here we have نوشتن. The present stem of نوشتن is نویس. The subjunctive form would be بنویسم. So the subject is man, so بنویسم. خواندن, to read. Remember the U here is silent. So خواندن. Imagine the aleph is attached to the letter خ. So خان is the present stem. Again, the U is silent. This is how you read it. خان. تو is the subject. بخوانی, which the spoken form is بخونی. اجازه دادن. ده is the present stem. او is the subject. اجازه بدهد. بدهد. The name of the present stem is ده. We read it, we pronounce it as ده, but then when it gets conjugated, it becomes ده. So daha. And then this one has a drastic change in the spoken form. اجازه بده. We drop the letter ه. اجازه بده. یاد گرفتن. گیر is the present stem of گرفتن. Subject ما. یاد بگیریم. ادامه دادن. Again, we have another دادن, so the same present stem. شما ادامه بدهید. This one also has a drastic change. ادامه بدین. So we remove he in the spoken language. We like drop it. نشستن. نشین is the more formal present stem, and the spoken form of it is شین without the nun. So let's do the formal first. So آنها بنشینند. I know there's like too many like this, right? بنشینند. This one in the spoken form would be بشینن. So we don't need ne. And then dal is removed, so بشینن. So I don't know if you've noticed or not, but subjunctive is formed the same as imperative. So you see, it's like kind of the same formula. There's just one difference. Imperative, it's command, so it applies only to second person singular or plural. So for to, there's no ending. For شما, this is the ending. But subjunctive, it gets all the other verbal endings. And sometimes learners, they see be, so they think it's command. It's imperative. But if you see be with, like, let's say the ending meme or this ending, then it cannot be imperative. Because imperative, there's just this ending. If it's plural, if it's singular, actually no ending. So just try to make sure that you know the difference between these two. So now we are going to go over the irregulars. They do not follow the regular pattern, so they're also important to learn. We are going to start with the first one, which is the irregular form of the verb بودن. For the verb بودن, if we follow the formula that we just learned, then we need to attach be to the present stem, right? For example, let's say if the subject is man, then it should be something like به هستم, right? But no, this is an irregular form, so we do not follow the formula for this verb. And instead, we need to use باش. So باش is the stem for the subjunctive and imperative mood. Hast is the stem for indicative mood. That's why we use باش. And then we need to conjugate it. For example, باشم، باشی، باشد، باشیم، باشید، باشند. And باشد, the spoken form is باشه, باشید is باشین, باشند is باشن. Let's take a look at 3 examples. The first one, مریض بودن, مریض هستند. Let's say the subject is آنها. The subjunctive form would be مریض باشند. نگران بودن, نگران هستید. The indicative and then the subjunctive, نگران باشید. ناراحت بودن, the indicative is ناراحت هست. The subjunctive is ناراحت باشد. So we covered بودن, and now let's go over the verb داشتن. Let's take a look at the verb داشتن. If we follow the formula, it would give me something like this one. For example, من بدارم. But no, again, that's wrong because دار is the present stem for the verb داشتن in indicative mood. So for subjunctive, it would be داشته باش. I know it's long, but don't worry, you'll get used to it. Only in the beginning, it's like, whoa, like what is this? But you'll get used to it. So داشته باش, remember that. That's the stem for subjunctive and imperative. So again, we just need to conjugate it. That's it. So داشته باشم, داشته باشی, داشته باشد, داشته باشیم, داشته باشید, داشته باشند. And these are the spoken forms. So داشته باشه, داشته باشین, داشته باشن. Please note there are 2 exceptions. 2 verbs. So نگه داشتن, to keep, برداشتن, to pick up. So again, the present stem is dar, so the subjunctive should be داشته باش as stem, right? But no, we just use dar as stem, and also we do not attach be to it. So نگه دارم would be the subjunctive form of it. بردارم would be the subjunctive form. So no داشته باش, and also no be attached to it. Just remember these 2, and it's only 2. It could be worse. It could be like 20 irregulars. So I think 2 is manageable. Let's take a look at 3 examples. The first one, دوست داشتن. داشتن is the verbal part. So the indicative form in the present tense is دوست دارم. And then the subjunctive form, دوست داشته باشم. Next verb, لازم داشتن. Again, we have داشتن as the verbal part. The indicative in the present tense, لازم دارید. Or the spoken form, لازم دارین. The subjunctive, لازم داشته باشید. The spoken form, لازم داشته باشین. Another verb here, اجازه داشتن. So we have داشتن again one more time. The indicative in the present tense, اجازه داریم. The subjunctive, اجازه داشته باشیم. We covered داشتن, and now we are going to take a look at the verbs with verbal elements شدن and کردن. So the verbs that the verbal elements are either شدن or کردن, attaching be to it in the spoken language is optional. For example, درست کردن, to make, to fix. کردن is the verbal part. کن is the present stem. So the subjunctive, let's say subject is man, would be درست بکنم. But the be is optional. I can also say درست کنم. There is no rules for when we should use be, when we shouldn't use be. It's just a matter of preference. That's it. There's really no rules. If you feel more comfortable using it, go ahead, use it. We as native people, sometimes we use it, sometimes we don't use it. It's just optional. The same with the verbs that the verbal element are شدن. So for example, خوشحال شدن means to get happy, to become happy. So example is for subject man. I can say either خوشحال بشوم or خوشحال شوم. So again, you see there's no be here. So this one is also optional. So we covered this one. Next are the verbs that the non-verbal elements are بر. So let's take a look at two examples. Here we have برداشتن and برگشتن. These two verbs, you see, they start with بر. And these two are compound verbs. They are not simple verbs. بر is a preposition and it's the non-verbal part. So for the subjunctive of برداشتن, let's say the subject is man. So the subjunctive would be بردارم. بردارم. As you can see, there's no be attached to دارم. Because if I attach a be, it would be بر بدارم. And then it's like double be, right? So بر and then another be. So in order to avoid that, we just don't use be for we don't attach be to the present stem. And the same with برگشتن. Again, we have another بر. گرد is the present stem. So we should attach be to the present stem. But again, it would be a be here and then another be here. So it would be like بر بگردم. So that's why we just like don't attach the be to the present stem and instead we say برگردم. So we covered this one. The next one are the verbs that their present stem start with aleph. So we said the last one are the verbs that their present stem starts with aleph. For example, here آوردن. آور is the present stem. Let's say the subject is man, so it would be بیاورم. What is this ye here? We add this ye between be and aleph, which is this aleph آور. So بیاورم. If I don't add a ye, then it would be something like باورم. And this word actually it has a different meaning. It means my belief. So this doesn't work. We need to add a ye between be and aleph. The pronunciation is بیاورم, and in the spoken language it has a drastic change. We say بیارم. So we even remove vav from the pronunciation and we say بیارم. Another example, آمدن. A is the present stem. Let's say again subject is man, so it would be بیایم. So we add a ye between be and aleph. This aleph is for this one. And then what is this ye here? Because there's no ye in the present stem. We add a ye again because there's an aleph here. And to ease the pronunciation, we add a ye before the conjugation. So بیایم. In the spoken language, we say بیام. It's easier. If I do not add this ye between be and aleph, then it would be something like bayam, which actually doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have any meaning. So you need to be careful when it comes to verbs that their present stem starts with aleph. Great, so we finished how to form subjunctive, and also we learned the irregulars. I hope it wasn't too hard. And now we are just going to learn a little bit about verbs, words, and phrases that trigger the subjunctive, but we will go in details into this section in like the other upcoming lessons. For now, we're just going to have an overview of what we mean by this part. So when do we use the subjunctive? What triggers the subjunctive? There are actually hundreds of verbs that trigger the subjunctive. And not only verbs, also expressions, phrases, adverbs, mostly verbs, but there are other stuff that triggers the subjunctive too. That's why learning the subjunctive is so important. I always say if you want to really master Farsi, you have to learn two things really well: ezafe and subjunctive, because it's so widely used. But since there are so many verbs in languages that have that subjunctive is extensively used, like Spanish and I think French too, these verbs are put into groups, categories. So I did the same for you guys in the next upcoming lesson. And some verbs under these categories are covered. Of course, we cannot cover all verbs because again, it's like hundreds, but some of the important one, common one for each category will be covered. And also not only, again, it's not only verbs. For example, on the possibility, we will cover like an adverb as well. So again, just very most common verbs and adverbs, phrases maybe, we will cover this. Just don't worry about these two conditional clauses. It means the if clauses and the conditional conjunctions. That's more for like late intermediate level. But we will go over these groups here. We reached the end of this lesson. I hope you guys found it helpful. Please let me know in the comment section if you have any questions, any comments. And then if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe, because that would really motivate me to make more videos. All right, I will see you guys in the next lesson. فعلا خدا حافظ.